Gamaliel, the shadow of foundation, integrated quality, Yesod foundation. Yesod, meaning foundation, is the ninth sephira on the tree of life and represents the inner foundation upon which our experience of life is built. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, where thoughts, emotions, imagination, memory, intuition, and unconscious patterns gradually give rise to our actions in the world. Every action begins as an inner movement. Every relationship begins with perception. Every choice begins with belief. Yesod reminds us that the quality of our lives is inseparable from the quality of the foundation upon which they are built. When this foundation is rooted in awareness, our thoughts, emotions, and imagination become faithful servants of consciousness. They support clarity rather than confusion, discernment rather than reaction, creativity rather than illusion. The foundation does not determine who we are, it determines how we experience reality. The shadow, Gamaliel, the shadow of foundation. Within the symbolic framework of this book, Gamaliel represents the fragmentation of our inner foundation, where Yesod provides a stable relationship between consciousness and the inner world. Gamaliel represents the tendency to confuse our inner experience with reality itself. Thoughts become unquestioned truths, emotions become unquestioned facts. Memories become identity, expectations become certainty, imagination becomes projection. The individual gradually stops responding to reality and begins responding to the stories created about reality. The shadow of Gamaliel is not thought, it is not emotion, it is not imagination. Each is a natural and essential aspect of human consciousness. The shadow arises when we unconsciously identify with them. The foundation becomes unstable because it is no longer rooted in direct experience. It becomes rooted in unconscious interpretation. Repression, suppression. When Gamaliel becomes repressed or suppressed, the individual disconnects from the inner world. Emotions are ignored. Intuition is distrusted. Imagination is dismissed. Dreams are forgotten. Pain is buried. Rather than understanding the inner landscape, the individual attempts to control or silence it. Yet what is suppressed does not disappear. Ignored emotions continue shaping perception. Buried fears continue influencing decisions. Unexamined beliefs quietly govern behavior from beneath awareness. The foundation becomes unstable because it has never been consciously explored. Suppressing the inner world does not create clarity. It simply allows unconscious patterns to remain hidden. Possession. When Gamaliel becomes possessed, the opposite occurs. The individual becomes completely identified with the inner world. Every thought is believed, every emotion becomes absolute truth. Every fear predicts reality, every memory defines identity. The imagination no longer creates possibilities, it creates prisons. The mind continually constructs stories about oneself, about others, and about the future. These stories gradually become more convincing than direct experience itself. The individual no longer sees reality, they see their interpretation of reality. The foundation shifts from awareness to projection. Universal pattern, Gamaliel represents the archetypal fragmentation of perception. Consciousness forgets the difference between direct experience and interpretation. The reflection becomes mistaken for the reality it reflects. Collective unconscious. Collectively, Gamaliel appears wherever societies become governed by assumptions, inherited beliefs, ideological narratives, fear projection, and emotional reactivity rather than conscious inquiry. Entire cultures begin responding to stories about reality instead of reality itself. Individual psyche. Within the individual, Gamaliel appears through unconscious beliefs, emotional conditioning, fear, memory, projection, imagination, identity, and internal narratives. The psyche quietly constructs an inner world through which all experience is filtered. Without awareness, these patterns gradually become mistaken for objective reality. The world. In daily life, Gamaliel becomes visible through our actions. We react before understanding. We assume rather than ask. We withdraw because of imagined rejection. We avoid opportunities because fear predicts failure. We repeat familiar relationship patterns without recognizing their origin. We respond to interpretations rather than direct experience. Our behavior quietly reveals the foundation upon which our perception has been built. Reflection. Spend a few moments observing your inner world, not to judge it, to understand it. Ask yourself, what stories do I repeatedly tell myself? Which of my fears are based upon direct experience and which arise from interpretation? What beliefs quietly shape the way I see myself? How often do I mistake emotion for objective truth? Where do I assume instead of asking? Do I respond to reality or to my interpretation of reality? What foundation am I building my life upon? Recognition is the beginning of rebuilding, for every life is ultimately shaped by the foundation upon which it rests.